So first of all, I would just like to start with the agenda so that you know what we're going to do today. Of course, we're going to introduce ourselves also, but I just want to give you like a small insight into what we're going to present today. We will start with an introduction of Inform and also, of course, of Right, just to let you know kind of who you're speaking to or basically who you're listening to. And then afterwards, of course, we're going to show you exciting new use cases. First of all, use cases that we have with hospitals, but also a use case that we have with one of our customers or potential customers, and also with section access management. Afterwards, the NHS, Mark Singleton is already joining. I think a colleague of him will also join afterwards. Hi, Mark, thanks for joining. They will present their application, but also they will kind of just tell you why they needed the right back solution and then also why they decided to go for Right. Afterwards, we're also giving you an overview and an introduction into what's coming. And of course, afterwards, there will be a Q&A session for you to just ask your questions and then, of course, get all the answers that you have. We will have, or we already have, a section where you can kind of ask your questions below. And we would suggest that you just ask all your questions and then we will, of course, try to answer all of them afterwards. If there's not enough time to answer all these questions, we will kind of just contact you directly to answer these questions. So what I would suggest is if you have questions that are kind of directly to the guys of the NHS, then we should start with them today. And afterwards, of course, we will always reach out to you to answer all the other questions that you have. I am doing the same here in Germany, but not only for Germany, also for the whole EMEA region. So basically the NHS with the UK, but also all the other countries, also Africa, for example, I'm taking care of our partners there and also of our customers.
Perfect, thank you, John. So my name is Thomas. I started developing the first writeback extension 5 years ago for Qlik, and meanwhile I am the product manager of Right, taking care of the roadmap of our extensions.
Yeah, Brill. So yeah, my name's Mark Singleton. Lucky enough to represent Wrightington, Wigan and Lee NHS Foundation Trust. So we're based in Greater Manchester in the United Kingdom. We've probably used Qlik now for just past 10 years, but I've only used Qlik Sense for probably about 2 years, and I've only been using the RightRight extension for probably about 3-4 months now, but I've already done quite a number of different use cases using it. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about one particular one that's quite topical at the moment, something called COVID-19, for those that haven't heard about it. Inconvenience in the world, but yeah, we've done plenty of other use cases with RightRight.
That's perfect. All right, thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for joining today, and also thank you for presenting your use case. As I said, you will present that later on because we will start with some other slides, but thanks for joining in between as well. That's great. As I said, now I will just briefly introduce you to Inform itself. So Inform is not only a company that takes care of Qlik and Right, but in addition to that, we have around about 850 employees nowadays, actually, and most of them based are in Aachen, in Germany, but we've also got some employees in Atlanta, for example, Dallas, and we've also got some employees in Sydney. We don't only care about Right, as I said, or kind of don't only do the Right and the BI business, but next to that, we also kind of have different businesses in the aviation industry, also in the logistics, and also other stuff like, for example, fraud detection software and stuff like that. So we are a software producing company, and basically our department that we're working in is the Inform Data Lab, and we are the only department that kind of does services just next to the software that we produce. So what we take care of is data management, data analytics, and data science. And data analytics, this is something that you're going to see today, obviously, where we take care about Qlik at the most, but then also other solutions. But what we did here is we also invented a solution called Right. And today the focus will lie on Right Edit. But I think many of you that are in the call have also heard of Right Plan before. This is something that we will just briefly introduce, but today the focus will lie on Right Edit. As I said, we work very closely with Qlik, and this is something that we've been doing the last 10 years. And for example, in 2018, we were awarded as the solution provider of the year for EMEA. And last year and the year before, we were awarded as the DACH partner of the year. So basically for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And this is, of course, something we're very proud of. And we're really proud that we have such a great relationship with all the Qlik guys, but of course, with all their customers as well. And I think that there are great relationships. And yeah, we're happy to kind of gain new partners, but of course, new customers through webinars like these. And I think that Mark Singleton and the NHS guys showing you a solution, which is also very current as the COVID case is, that's very helpful for you as well. So as I said, I would like to start by introducing Right. Right is a solution that we've implemented or developed 5 years ago, just due to the fact that many of our customers said that they really like Qlik and they really see kind of the value in it. But what they also see is that Qlik can be seen as a one-way street. And what we then try to do is we kind of try to give our users more possibilities in Qlik. And it started with commenting, because that was the first use case that we have with a manufacturing company in Germany. And then we realized that this could also be a good product for any other company using Qlik. And that's why we then started adding other stuff to that product. So for example, free texters, checkboxes, drop-down menus and stuff like that, just to allow new use cases as well. What we then did, we implemented a planning solution into Qlik itself. So many of our customers were using Excel before, and then said that they want to have a kind of proper professional planning solution. And this is where we then said, yeah, of course, there are many good planning solutions on the market, but most of them are third-party tools. Why don't you just integrate that into Qlik Sense? And this is basically what we did. And we're very successful with that as well. But as I said, this is something that we will show in another webinar. So if you're interested in that, just reach out to us and we will, of course, show you as well. What you also see on the slide is one point which is very important for us, is the point enterprise readiness. So I think that most of you also heard that there are many solutions on the market that allow write back, but not many solutions on the market are enterprise ready. So we are working with many large enterprises, such as Lufthansa, as an example, but also many others in the US and also across Europe. And these enterprises, of course, they always have security requirements and stuff like that. And this is something that we nowadays totally allow with our solution, just due to the fact that this is something that our customers needed. First of all, before Thomas will then also move on with some of the use cases, I just wanted to show you a few of the functionalities that we have. Because I think in the use cases that we're going to show today, we kind of show ready solutions, or kind of ready solutions sometimes. And what you will see now are just a few functionalities that we have, just to let you know what is feasible if you've got one of these use cases. So what you can see on this screenshot right now is a commenting functionality, but also a rating functionality, or a functionality like a traffic light, what you can see here, where you can then have approval statuses, for example, within Qlik. This is something that many of our customers use, and it's very valuable in order to kind of have like an easy chat function where many of your colleagues can kind of just write comments. And of course, you can see historization here. But also, if you want to do a rating, or if you want someone with traffic lights or stuff like that, this can easily be done in Qlik Sense now. What we also have is an approval workflow. Due to the fact that we allow set checkboxes, what you can see here, we can then also allow approval workflows. Right now, this is a workflow that we allow on only one page, but of course, we also allow that throughout many different pages, and also it's not has to be an approval workflow between two parties, but there can be many more parties as well. So this is something that often is done in the planning solution, where you can then kind of finish a plan and said, okay, I will approve that plan, and then my manager has to approve it once again. But of course, you can also use that within your edit solution if you've got a use case where you just want to have kind of 4 eyes to look at something. What we've actually implemented internally, so our company, especially for our Right business, we use Right as an internal CRM system. So if you kind of combine the functionalities of Qlik Sense and Right, you can then have a CRM functionality within Qlik Sense. And this is something what we did. And how we did it can be shown here, or can be seen here, because what we allow is we also allow all these changes made in a formula. And what we did then is we allow to kind of create new activities, create new customers, sales cycles, contacts, and whatever, all within Qlik Sense. And what you can then do is, of course, you can just kind of change your activities, update the activities, But what you can also do is you can see the full kind of track of these activities in order to know what happened last and stuff like that. And this is very valuable, and we've got many customers using these or similar functionalities within Qlik Sense nowadays. I think the most valuable point, and this is something that I just want you to know, is through using our solution, we turn BI into UI. Just due to the fact that we allow many more use cases, we allow functionalities that have otherwise been in third-party tools such as Excel. And if you kind of just integrate these solutions, then you can have a UI solution, so a very good user experience as well, where you can just allow your users to have a good interface, to play around with the data, and not only to interact with it, but also to change the data if it's necessary. So this is basically what we allow with our solution. Of course, you will see many more insights within the demos. First of all, Thomas will start with a hospital use case. So something that we implemented for many hospitals, and nowadays we're talking to many hospitals because this is something that is very valuable to them. Also, he will show you an app where we implemented the delivery management. And afterwards, he will show you a section access management that is implemented within Qlik through Right. So this is something that probably a few of you have already seen. This is something that many Qlikkies have also shared because it's very valuable. But even more valuable probably is the use case that NHS has implemented, because this is something that really can help people, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it today again. So thanks again, guys, for joining. But now I would just like to hand over to Thomas, and he can just start with the demo.
All right, so here we go. I have to move my camera a little bit. So what you can see here is our hospital application. Due to the current COVID crisis, we created a Qlik Sense application in combination with RightRight to handle your patients and your wards directly in your hospital. What you can see here is a dashboard where you can see the current situation of your hospital. So your number of free beds, the number of your occupied beds, the number of admissions of the patients per day, and how long patients are assumed to stay in your hospital. But what you can do now in this application is easily create new stations or wards and assign free beds to them. So if I first start by showing you our current implementation, so let's assume you have created some wards. In this case, we can see 8 wards and the current occupation inside of these wards. And now you want to do a patient admission. You could easily say, okay, here's a new patient incoming and he needs to stay in this hospital. So I want to put him in on station W2. And I want to place him in bed 2 because I know that there are the medics the patient really needs for his stay in this hospital. What you can see now on the right side is our right form extension. And this right form extension is really often used if you operate on exactly one data set, like in a CRM system on one customer, and in this case, on one patient. What we did here fully automatically is that we selected a bed and already attached this bed to the patient, and we created a very unique patient ID for this new patient. We also filled a date of admission here, and now we can set some parameters, like when was the date of the positive COVID test, probably yesterday, and then we know because he is really bad right now, he has to stay here for 21 days, and please take a lot of care to him. I can now just click on the save button. And what we did now, we just saved the data to a database. And this could be a Microsoft SQL database, an Oracle database, a Postgre database, or MariaDB, for example. And we've also implemented some workflows here. So in today's webinar, you will see a lot of workflows and approvals. What you did see now is that the bed turned from green to red. So if I deselect all my selections, we can now see that this bed is now occupied and is occupied by this patient. On the next sheet, you can then see a patient management where you can just select one patient, and here you could then enter some parameters, for example, that he must need a ventilator or a specific medication, or he does not have to take for 14 days, but now for 30 days, because again, he's also really bad. Click on save and just change the parameters. But if you have to switch your wards and say, okay, a standard ward now needs to be a COVID ward, you can just go to the next sheet where you can find our RightEdit extension. And this edit extension also allows you to create new data records directly in Qlik without leaving it. Just click on the plus button, say, okay, here's my new COVID ward 1. And there we have 15 beds. Click on save. And now you created spaces for 15 new patients in your hospital. Again, when you now go to the patient admission, you immediately see that here is your COVID ward 1, which is now ready to be managed by you and give it new patients in here. But nevertheless, I think the NHS guys will later on show more details on COVID applications in more detail. What I'd like to show you now,
just to follow up, what you can do here, just to ask you if I understand it correctly as well. What you can do here is you can basically see all beds that you have in the different wards or stations, and then you can just jump into a bed and then kind of decide whatever factors you want to change. For example, is there someone in the bed or isn't it? Or is it a bed that is still free? Or is there a patient that had other diseases before and stuff like that? This is something that you could just do here directly.
Yeah, exactly. So here you can see a nice view of all your wards or stations and the beds in there. And the green beds are not occupied, the red ones are occupied. And if you want to attach a new bed, just click on a ward, select a new bed, and then you can occupy to a patient. And of course, you can define as many parameters as you want to, because we develop our extensions in a very generic way. They first of all work like every other Qlik table with dimensions and KPIs. So it's up to you to define which fields you want to be shown. You could add specific parameters, like this is a very critical ward for critical patients, and doesn't matter on which columns you define. You tell our extension which column is editable and how it is editable. And as you can see here, we are always talking about edit modes. These are the different input fields we do support. We have drop-down lists, for instance, here. If I click in here, we get all the free beds in our currently selected ward in station A2, and can then pick only free beds, because we only want to attach a patient to a free bed, right, and not to an occupied bed. Then we have calendar input fields.
There's kind of an associative model behind as well.
Yeah, exactly. There's an associative model in the back, which I will also introduce in our section access model, because when using write-back solutions, you want to have a high data quality, right? And then you don't want to pick any beds that are even not free, because then you can just throw your whole application away. Then you are inserting wrong data, and you do not want to have this. And yeah, you want to have your data connected, like when you have two columns, city and country, and you choose country Germany, you don't want to choose Paris anymore, because Paris is a city in France and not in Germany. But this will also be shown in the next slides. All right, let's head over to another application we've just built in the last days for a customer's requirement. So let's assume that you are a delivery company, like a parcel delivery company. Here you can first of all see a dashboard, and here we just want to show you that we can set up on every single Qlik application. So it could be an existing Qlik application, could be a very new Qlik application, but here we really set up on an existing data model. And what you can see here are all your deliveries that had been taken and has to be taken in the future. So if we just take a look to today's date, we see here our deliverers, and we can then see in the orange colors with the number of open deliveries, and in the blue one we can see the delivered packages. But what we now want to show you, how approval processes and workflows can work directly in Qlik with our extension Right. So here we have a view for our dispatcher, so for the manager of our company, and here you can see in which cities our deliverers are on the road, and where they have to take the packages to. So let's just select exactly one deliverer, like in this example, Dennis, like here. We can now see an overview of Dennis. Here in the yellow ones, we see which packages have already been delivered. The green one is the currently delivering package, and the right one are the packages that has to be delivered today. Switching to the next sheet, we can see the view for the driver, which I have currently selected. In this case, it's Dennis. And here Dennis can see where he has to take his new package to. In this case, he has to drive from Essen to Frankfurt am Main, which is a long way to go for just one day. But he can set the status of his current
Thomas,
delivery.
we've got many people from America joining. I think for them it's not a long way. Just to let them know it's not that far.
Yeah, I think for them it's just a small jump.
Yeah, that's
but here
true.
in Germany it's a long way. takes about two hours by car to go. So all right, what you can do here is just say, okay, this order has now been delivered. Just click on this checkbox which is another edit field. Click on save. Now I have marked this as delivered, and the deliverer, Dennis, then immediately gets its new route. And now, okay, happy Dennis, he now has to go from Frankfurt am Main to Munich. So another 4 hours to go. But this is where he can say, okay, this is has now been delivered, or probably I've had a problem. Then he can say, I didn't catch the recipient, and I will try again in 1 more hour. Can add a comment here, didn't get him. Click on save, and now what you can see now is that he again gets this new route. So now he has to drive to Berlin and then again back to Munich to deliver his new package. But what's more important now is that the dispatcher on this sheet can now see that on the route of Dennis there is an issue, which is now marked as red. And now he can just track this issue and can read the comment of Dennis, can maybe call him or reassign the delivery to tomorrow or so. And yeah, just manage the delivery here. And what I want to show you to explain it in a very simple way, what we do with Right is just changing a 0 to a 1. And regarding your requirements, it's up to you to define the workflows, the processes behind it, because we use the full power of this massive Qlik engine where you can do anything. And we defined if this package has been delivered, then Dennis should see the next one, and then he is able to edit his next delivery.
Thomas, I think what you explained right now, this is already a pretty specific use case. Could you probably just also explain how the whole saving process works? I think this is also a question that we have in the chat already, asking a question, do I just save it into a QVD or also into a database? Could you explain that in detail as well?
Yeah, sure. So we always save data in a database. We would like to save data in a QVD file, but unfortunately, it's not possible from a technical perspective to do so. And we do so support a couple of databases, or a lot of databases, like the most used Azure, Microsoft Azure database, MS SQL database, Oracle databases, but open source databases as well. In this use case, we are storing the data into Postgre database. And what's very important for you, if you decide to deploy or implement Right on your scenario, you do not have to write any SQL statement on database level you own. Just give us an empty database probably, or an existing database, give us some rights to create tables, auto tables, and so. And then you just define, okay, here's a new endpoint, and with endpoints we mean use cases or database tables, for instance, where we will send a delivery ID and some parameters like delivered, reschedule, time, hour, forward, city, comment, and so on. You just say which kind of type, click on save, and we fully automatically create tables on the database backend. And what's very important to know, we never ever overwrite any data or delete data in the database. We store every single change event. So we have 2 database tables for every single endpoint. One is called data, where you see the last change values per line, like here. And we have a history table where you can track every single change event. You can see when did someone change, who saved this data, what's the current version of this data set, and what has been changed. So you have a full audit trail of all your single changes. And as John said before, we are enterprise ready, and with enterprise ready, we mean that we are really enterprise ready. We are fully secure. So we work with JWT tokens in the back end, and if you are not logged into Qlik Sense and you do not have a right token, you will not be able to save any data into a database. So I think we are the only ones who are have this security level, and yeah, so in this case, Dennis is only allowed to save his data into a database and not another driver.
Perfect.
Okay, yeah, what you could also do, just showing you, I mean, we've created this as a demo application, but just to give you a rough overview, what could all be done with our extension is just to show you shortly our app maintenance here. And here we have a big write edit table where you can just reset some data. So here we use our write table also to create new demo data sets. We do not use any Excel file anymore, no inline scripts anymore. All is done by write edit or by write, where we can then just create new lines to create new demo data sets, to create new use cases. And yeah, we fully use write without leaving Qlik. We stay in Qlik the full day. All right, so we started talking about security, and I think this is a good way to jump over to our section access management demo.
Perfect.
Let me just take a look where I have opened it. Yeah, I think this one, and another application was this one. Okay, now I have to place two applications on my screen. What you can see on the left side is our write plan application or our write plan extension. And here I'm currently logged in as my own user, Thomas Gore. And what you can see, I have only one selection on one plan ID. So one plan ID means this is a budget. Like in this case, I have the scenario, I have selected scenario bed year. Unfortunately, I'm only able to see a couple of rows. So here we have a sales planning and a hierarchy of 4 layers. So on the first layer, we see our company, followed by a region, followed by a sales rep and a customer on the last level. But in total, I can only see 4 customers, but I know that we do have more than 4 customers. And the reason why I can only see the 4 lines is because we have protected this application on the left with section access. And all of you know section access. You use it in every company where you have data that has to be protected. And how did you manage the section access until now? You had an inline statement, you had Excel files, you had any text files. And of course, when implementing the solution, you're fine with the solution. But if you have to change some rules after a couple of months, if there's a new employee or so, it's very hard to find those rules and to manage them properly. So what you can see on the right is our write edit and write form extension. And this is a section access security management application where I can now select a user. In this case, I select my own user. And for this user, I only want to see enabled rules. And as we can see here, I have created 2 active rules. West Neumann Bigfoot shoes, that's exactly this tree here, West Neumann Bigfoot shoes. And the second line, East Miller and a star, which is a wildcard. So this means that I am allowed to see every customer of Müller. But as I selected my user Tigor, I am now able to create a new rule on the right side with our write form extension. So I'm creating a unique section access rule ID. I want to grant access as user, not as admin in this case. And I want to grant access on the region north, for instance. On all sales reps, all customers, click on save. And what we did now, again, we save data into a Postgre database, and now we are triggering some reloads fully automatically. As you can see here, here is my new line, and now is a reload running on the second application, which is now auto-refreshing, because now I'm pushing the new section access rules live into my planning session. And as you can see now, here is my new region north with all the sales reps, all the customers underneath, and now I'm allowed to plan on those customers. So this is really great, but let's assume that I now did an error, so I have defined the wrong section access rule. No problem. I can just easily disable this section access rule again, click on save, and now the same process starts again. It's a full workflow behind where we reload this application first, then this application, and as you can see now, the region north will now be removed here.
And Thomas, just to make sure, right now you're just showing that on a plan solution, but this can be done for any other app as well, right?
Yes, sure, because we are just defining some data, right? So these are some metadata for section access rules, and this can be used for every Qlik application. You could even connect this to QlikView applications, right? Because we are talking about the Qlik engine, and we just need to define some parameters, like every section access needs this. We have this user ID, we have this access type as user or admin, and then we have those reduction fields. But what we've been talking before is that we can also make our drop-down list associative. So here we have 3 drop-down lists for the reductions on region, sales rep, and customer. And if I like to take Bigfoot shoes on a customer level, I not want to define a rule where the sales rep is then Müller on region East, because this doesn't make sense, because we do not have this data connection in our data model. So if I select Bigfoot shoes here, the 2 fields above are filled fully automatically, because this is a one-to-one connection. If I clear my current selections and I say, okay, I take region North and then take a look to the customers, we just get the customers that are really in the region North. And we only get the sales rep that are in the region North. So this means we have implemented the green, white, gray logic of Qlik directly to our right extensions.
And Thomas, just to make sure, these are all functionalities that you could basically use in any other app as well. So these associative dropdowns could be used for any use case, but also what you showed in the bed management. This could also be an office management where you kind of just show a whole building and then show the different offices, right?
Yes, exactly, because we are just changing data. So just imagine you already have an existing table in in Qlik, and you want to attach a comment. Just take this existing table, get our RightEdit extension, drag and drop it above the table, say convert into, and then you are already able to change values in the fields. Then it's up to you to define an endpoint where we create this database table, and that's it. You just click on save, and everything works.
Very cool.
And just one more thing before we can hand over to NHS, what we've also implemented in this application, and by the way, this application is for free. So if you want to just take a look how we implemented this, or you just want to test this, just contact us and you can get this application for free, as well as the hospital application. On the next sheet, I just implemented a security simulator, because you can create new rules, but you do not know what data are behind. Because if I were to create a new rule for you, John, I wouldn't be able to log in as with your user on the left side here and just to check how the rules work. So what you can see here on the left side are the rules I have already created for my user, and to the right you can see the impact. So those 2 rules mean that I can see 4 rows in total in my application, so 4 customers in total here.
Perfect. Cool.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Thomas. I think just to sum that up, I think what we need our listeners to know is that you can see Write and all the functionalities, and what we showed now is only RightEdit, right? But all these functionalities can be seen as a toolbox. And what we allow you to do is to use these different functionalities, and there are many, and then just kind of build the use cases that you have. And you could build a COVID-19 app like NHS did, but you could of course do anything else which helps you in your Qlik Sense environment. So as I said, from BI to UI, I think these examples show it quite well.
Yeah.
Perfect. I think we should then now probably hand over to the NHS guys.
It's going to be Mike sharing his screen. If you could give him the ability to do that, that'd be great. Just while Mike's doing that, so just to give you some background into our journey with RightBack. So we've actually looked at a few different solutions, but for the Inform RightBack solution was definitely the slickest and the most polished. Particularly with what I love about it is the inline, or the form edit, where you're able to edit just a single record. And we found that works really well with some of our clinical staff, where showing them tables of data and asking them to amend large tabular data sets is a bit overwhelming, but break it down to giving them the ability to just edit a single record is much more in their comfort zone. So that's definitely been beneficial. Today we're going to be showing the what we've been doing to support our organisation around COVID-19. But prior to that, we've done stuff with data quality, where we've been able to attribute data quality issues to individuals and sort of cascade them throughout the organisation, allow different people and services to resolve those where that hasn't that level of detail hasn't actually existed in the clinical system itself. Contractual challenges. So each month as an organisation we get challenged by our commissioners on various different aspects of data quality. Again, we're able to do a similar process with that, cascading them through the organisation. More recently, we've been doing stuff with clinical teams. So one of the problems the NHS has, and I'm sure the NHS isn't alone. I'm sure it's the similar problems elsewhere, is that the demand on hospitals and inpatient beds far outstrips the capacity of hospitals, and also the ability to discharge patients, often challenged by support not always being available in the community, or houses need to have various adaptations. So one of the things, one of the apps we've recently built was for the ward staff to capture the reasons why patients can't be discharged, and we've been able to do that with Right, and then that provides us with the ability, as again, because all the data is being captured via Right rather than spreadsheets, it immediately gives them instant analytics via the Qlik app as well. So that's also been really beneficial and well received by other NHS trusts.
What we know so far, they are building many use cases where they kind of also implemented our solution throughout many different hospitals. And what we saw last time is that they built something which is kind of similar to what Thomas has built for hospitals here in Germany and across Europe, but they have, of course, their focus on what they really need. And I think what they then also see is they see how many people are infected with the COVID virus, and also how many of them kind of already kind of left the virus behind, and how many of them also died. Of course, this is something that you also see, because basically what they told us is everyone who died is, of course, a bed that is free for someone else. It's kind of bad saying that, but this is something how it then kind of is developed in the app as well, to just show, okay, there's someone who died, and then of course there's a bed free for someone else who really needs the bed. And I think you've also heard in the news that the situation in the UK, I think it's getting slightly better now, but of course it also was quite bad in between, as it is in nearly every country nowadays. But nonetheless, this is what they kind of had there. Thomas, have you also got some insights what you could share here?
Yeah, they also do a kind of a classification of the patients. I wouldn't call it a triage, but they say, you know, what's the status of the patient? How deeply is he infected? So is he really tested positive? Is he just suspected to be a COVID patient, or what's his current status? And they do have an overview about the current situation, about the bed capacity in their hospitals, in their wards, and of course also about the outcome. So there they track the discharged people, of course also the people who died, and the confirmed cases that had been sent again back home in quarantine.
What we could actually also suggest is that we kind of just have a video, they basically just kind of record their solution, and then we can just send out the recording as well, because I think this is something that would be very valuable for you to kind of hear from a customer's perspective how the whole thing could look like. And therefore we really kind of wanted them to be in the call. Now due to the connection, it doesn't work as we kind of expected it to be, but nonetheless, you know that they have something in place using our solution, as many customers have as well. And if you kind of just want to see a few of our customers' solutions, then we've of course got reference customers who are always willing to show you. But otherwise, I would then just probably now jump into the presentation again to show you, and we will send you a recording of the whole thing. Perfect. Exactly. So what you see right now is my presentation again, right?
Yes.
Perfect. Because what I wanted to show you here is, first of all, the trusted sign that you see, because our extension is trusted by Qlik. So basically, we had to give a whole code to Qlik, and then kind of they reviewed it. We've got a very, very good relationship with Qlik, meaning that we've got many customers together with Qlik as well, but also, of course, with all of our partners and ourselves, of course, obviously. And what we have is a solution which is enterprise ready, which is security ready, and you can build many, many use cases with it. Not only the editing use cases that we showed you today, and as I said, these were just a few functionalities of what we have, but of course, as you can see here, we also allow financial planning, budgeting, P&L account planning, and stuff like that. And also, we're going to launch a new solution in probably 2 weeks called RightRight, which is a project management that we then also allow to kind of manage your projects within Qlik Sense, where you can then just directly have an editable Gantt chart, and so you can then also edit the project that you have, because we like our focus on making Qlik Sense editable to create UI from BI. So this is where we basically come from. Right now, we would then probably jump into this question section in order to answer all the questions that we had. I think there were quite many due to the fact that we had more than 100 attendees. Let me see if we can answer most of them. So another question that we have is, will this presentation be made available after the webinar? Of course it will. You will all get a recording link where you can kind of see the whole recording, but you will also get the presentation to kind of look into that. And as I said, we guarantee you that you also get a recorded video. This might take some time because I think the NHS guys, they are pretty stuffed nowadays, but nonetheless, we will kind of share that with you as well, because this is something what we definitely want to share. And our aim is to be very transparent with you and our customers of kind of what we can do with our solution. Another question, yeah?
Yeah, I've got 2 similar technical questions.
Sure.
So the main focus of those questions are, how does Write handle multiple users editing on the same page? So we have a workflow implemented in the extension. As soon as you enter a cell and start changing values, the extension gets locked, and we call this edit mode. Then you are currently in edit mode. If you were to do a selection or a data refresh comes, the extension wouldn't care about it because it's still locked. This has the idea behind that your data won't get lost when you do another selection during your inputs. As soon as you hit the save button or the cancel button, which you can also hit to cancel all your inputs, the edit mode will be released, and then the extension is free for updates, for data updates or for selections. And if multiple users were to operate on the same level, they could do so. And as I've mentioned before, we have 2 tables for every endpoint, data and history table. It's up to you to decide if you only want to store changed cells into a database, or if you want to store the entire row of a changed cell into the database. What we store then, if you choose the changed cells only, and 2 users operate on the same row but on different cells, there's no transactional locking between those 2 users. So both changes will be saved into the database. If you were to choose saving the entire row, then of course the last save would win inside of the data table, but you would see all changes in the history table. So again, it's up to you to define your use case, which change will win. So you could, for instance, define if a user enters a comment, then take always the last comment of the last user. But if a manager enters a comment, then take always the comment of a manager and always display this one. Until now, there is no locking of rows, but we are currently implementing the solution. And yeah, I think this will be released in autumn this year.
Perfect. I think there are many more questions as well, right? So one question that I see is, what is the commercial model, server or user-based? So Actually, it's user-based, so of course it depends on how many users you have in your Qlik Sense environment. What always is very important here is you only need users for the ones that need the editing capabilities. So if you've got 1,000 users in your Qlik Sense environment, but only 100 need the editing functionalities, then you would only need 100 licenses. But anyone else would see the changes as well. Nonetheless, we are with our customers. We've got many large customers, enterprise customers, and with them, we also found solutions that kind of allow a kind of enterprise or server model if this is the only way to go. So we are very flexible when it comes to licensing and pricing. So let's just kind of discuss that then, because of course, if you're an enterprise company, it's not as easy as saying, okay, I want to have my 10,000 users having a license. You wouldn't then do that way, otherwise you will then find other ways. But also with other customers talking about small amounts of licenses, we always find ways of doing so. So we're very flexible. We always try to find a way to work with you guys to get to that question. And I think, Thomas, did you already answer all these QVD questions? This is something that we had in between. But
yes,
did
this
you
was
read
about the data storage. Yeah, we answered this already. There's one question about the security, if we could explain the security in a more detailed way. So as I said, we use JWT token in the backend, and our backend is completely secure. So we have huge customers, huge manufacturing customers in Germany who did also penetration tests also from the banking sector, and they weren't able to write any input into the database without this JWT secret token. But on the front end, it's also possible to define security rules. As I said, you can decide which field is editable and how it should be editable, but next to it, you could also define a calculated edit mode to this field. So let's say a field should be editable as a drop-down list. Then you can activate this calculated edit mode, which is then a Qlik formula. And in this Qlik formula, you could define some rules like if user A enters the application, he is not allowed to use this drop-down list, but if user B enters this application, he is allowed to do so. And you can insert any Qlik logic behind there. You could make it with a date where you say only values in the future are editable here.
One question, because we're slightly going over time, but one question that I see already, and this is a question that we often get asked with regards to maintenance and support. So definitely we have a support team here, and we've got, of course, also someone working in the US with Dallas, who's always available for people kind of overseas. And our support is there for you kind of all the time. If you've got questions, they help you. If you want to have help with the installation, we will help you. And as I said, me and Dallas, we're kind of the first person of contact that you can reach out to, and then we will help you. The whole maintenance is included in the licensing, as you might know. And if you have kind of deeper questions with regards to that, just let us know. As I said, we will reach out to you anyways, because we want to send you the whole presentation and want to make sure that you kind of see everything. So please just let us know if there are any other questions. Also, one question, the last question that I will be able to answer now, because there are quite many still, we will answer all of them afterwards. But what we can see here is, how can I get section access and hospital apps? This is something that, Thomas, you will probably be able to answer.
Yeah. So the section access applications are still available with their QVF files and a detailed PDF for the installation. And we will also do the same for the hospital application. I think this will be available at the beginning of next week, where we can also provide you the hospital application with an installation guideline then.
Perfect. All right, so guys, if you kind of just also want to chat what you want to see next, so if you're also interested in the plan webinar and stuff like that, that would be excellent for us. But otherwise, kind of just stay healthy, stay safe, and we will contact you.
One more last thing, sorry, John. If you're interested in this applications and you're already a RightRight partner, the section access application is already available in our partner portal. If you're not a partner yet or a customer, just send us a short email at info@right.bi, and then we can send you a download link right after.
All right. Perfect. So thanks all guys. Also, thank you very much to the NHS guys. I'm sorry that it didn't work out as we expected, but nonetheless, we will share it with everyone. So thank you very much. Stay healthy and stay safe.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.